Hi, I'm Nada. I lived away from my family for years and learned a lot from the experience of expatriation. I am Maria. I have been living in London for a while, and today we will talk together about the experience of living away from family, with all its feelings and challenges. Hello, Nada. The weather today is very nice for walking, and the street is quiet, as if the city has breathed after all this crowding.
Hi, Maria. I really love this time of day. After work, when everything calms down, we can talk without interruption. Do you know, today I was thinking a lot about the topic of alienation, about the feeling that accompanies us when we are far from our families. The hardest thing is that no one understands you the way your family does. Sometimes you try to explain a simple situation to a colleague, and you feel like you are explaining your life from the beginning.
While my mother knew everything from the tone of my voice.
But despite all this, living abroad taught us things we would not have known back home. We learned self-reliance, time management, financial independence, and facing difficult situations without collapsing.
It makes us appreciate small blessings. It makes us thank God for a video call from a sister, a message from a brother, or even a prayer from a mother. Every time we put our heads on the pillow, we feel like we've gained something new, even if it's pain.
Yes, alienation creates different versions of ourselves in us, stronger, calmer, and sometimes deeper. But it leaves a small room inside us that no one enters except the memories of the first house.
What you said is beautiful, Maria. Alienation may never end, but we learn how to carry it gently and how to make a small house out of every city. We hang pictures of those we love in it and fill it with their scent, even if they are far away.
Exactly. And every time we come back, even for days, we know our hearts have always been there, waiting.
Remember my first week here in London? I arrived in the evening, it was raining, my bags were heavy, and I didn't know the directions very well. All I wanted at the time was to find a familiar face. My mother, for example, or even my father's voice saying to me, "Have you arrived? Everything is fine?"
Oh, nada. I went through something similar. In my first month here, I had the flu, and I had no one. Nobody asks me if I ate. Nobody makes me warm soup or puts compresses on my forehead. I had to go to the pharmacy alone, barely walking, just because no one else was here to take care of me.
How difficult it is to get sick abroad. Being sick back home makes you feel cared for. Here, it is a real test of unity.
And there's something else. Remember how I talked to my mom every day my first year here? I would put the phone on the table and let her hear the sound of the kitchen, the sound of the tea boiling, the sound of spoons. I wanted her to feel like she was with me. But with time, the calls started to decrease. Not because I don't miss you, but because life swallows you up. Work, responsibilities, fatigue.
This feeling generates a strange guilt. We feel that we are moving away, even though we do not want to, and we miss even though we do not appear. And we carry nostalgia silently so as not to worry those we love.
Right. Once I was cooking in the middle of the night, I suddenly felt like I missed my mom like crazy. I left everything and sat crying on the floor just because I remembered how she was teaching me to cut onions the right way.
Oh my God, how many times that's happened to me too. Sometimes we break down for reasons that seem trivial, but are never so. It's just a spark, igniting the whole fire of longing.
However, there are also situations that made me appreciate myself. The first time I fixed a lamp myself, or when I paid the rent alone, or when I drove on strange streets for the first time. I was proud despite the fear.
Yes, alienation, despite all its pain, builds a different trust in you. You realize that you are strong, that you are capable, even when you cry. Once, I forgot my keys inside the apartment and stood in the rain for 2 hours, looking at the street and saying to myself, "Am I really here, alone, in this city? And I survived all this time?"
Yes, we ask this question a lot. How did we survive? How did we grow up like this? But the truth is, we didn't just survive. We became more aware, more appreciative, and more in love with details that seemed small in the past.
Alienation doesn't just change our headlines, it changes our outlook on life. You become more grateful and kinder to people because you know what it means for someone to be a stranger in a country they don't know.
Maybe this is the best part of the experience. You return, even after years, to your family not as you left, but rather carrying stories, tears, and small successes. And you say to yourself, I did it. Alone, but I did it.
And with all those difficult moments we lived abroad, with every tear that fell in silence, every cold night without a warm embrace, and every short voice message from my mother that saved my day, I realized something important.
Right. Alienation teaches you to be self-reliant, but it also opens your eyes to the value of family, warmth, and belonging. It makes you closer to yourself and more aware of what you have, even if it's something as simple as a neighbor's smile or a cup of tea that you drink alone after a long day.
I learned to be my first friend, my source of comfort. I learned to accept my moments of weakness and celebrate my moments of strength. Exile taught me how to appreciate ordinary days and how to create joy from small details.
The best thing about this experience, it doesn't go to waste. Every step, every situation, every challenge builds something in you. You may not see it now, but you will feel it when you look back years later and say, I'm proud of myself.
True, and perhaps most importantly, despite the distance and despite the silence, we have not lost the connection with those we love. Because true love does not require a passport nor a permanent address. He just needs a heart that remembers and a message that is sent at the right time.
For everyone who lives far from their family now, for anyone who feels nostalgic, lonely, or tired, we tell you, you are not alone, and there is always light at the end of the road. Be patient, take care of yourself, and believe that every step builds you up for the better.
We are proud of all of you, and everyone who decides to start over, learn, suffer, and get up, to build his world with his own hands, despite everything.
Thank you for listening to us. Thank you to everyone who went abroad and still smiles despite its difficulty. You are the real heroes.
See you at the next meeting. Always remember, alienation may keep us away from family, but it brings us closer to ourselves.